this section of the tuples tutorial, we're going to see how we can loop through a tuple. In order to do so, we're going to create a new tuple and call it, so let me declare it. And inside of it, instead of here names, I'm going to use other items, but still it can be strings. For example, the name of states or cities of the United States. For example, here I can write Brooklyn, New York, also we can write Philadelphia, and we can also write New Jersey, so we have 4 elements, 4 items here. Probably adding a new one make things better. For example, we can write Chicago. So as you can remember, in the list we had 4 ways to loop through a list, and we had it from the fastest way to the slowest way or the longest way. Here for the tuples we have 3 ways, and we can start from the fastest way. So let me comment fastest way to loop through a tuple. And here I'm going to use the for loop for the first one. As you can see, as you can remember, we had for loop for the list as well. So here we have it here, new tuple for x in new tuple, and inside of it we can simply write print x. And here, as you can see, it's a very simple, very short one. Here we used x, which is going to represent every item here inside of the tuple. We also have another method when we use I or any kind of variable. Notice that here also you can use another variable. For example, for city, instead of x you can write city, and doesn't really make a difference. For example, let me write city and print city. Not a huge difference. And also you can write for I in range length of the new tuple, and then you can write print new tuple and if. But here let's try this one and use Python loop tuple.py, and it should be Python free because we are on Linux. And here, as you can see, we have all the items printed out. So here in this way we have printed out all of the items one by one, Brooklyn, New York, just in the sequence of the items inside the new tuple. Next way, which is the second fastest way, and here we write for I in range and length of new tuple, and inside of it we can print new tuple, and inside of it write I, which is the identifier of the position of every item inside the tuple. So let's save this one and see if it prints out the same result. Okay, here as you can see we have 2 Brooklyns, also 2 Chicagos, and this represents that we have 2 different methods with the same results. But the longest one and the hardest one probably is using the while loop. However, we do this for learning more Python codes, but it is not very much recommended that you use this method. So here, the longest way, and here I write while true, and also notice that you can open parentheses and write while, and let me declare another variable, count, which is going to represent, it works just the same as I here, but because in the while we do not declare I inside the while loop, we have to declare another variable outside of it in order to have a number to loop through the tuple. So here we could have written inside a parentheses, we could have written that while count is less than the length of the new tuple, and it would work just the same in the same way. But here, because it might be hard for you to understand because you're not very much familiar with the while loop, here I use true, and then I use an if statement inside the while loop and say if the condition became true, then you should break out of the loop and we are done looping through the tuple. So here I can write print new tuple and then count inside of it. So first of all, it will print out count, the 0 item, which is the item 0, which is Brooklyn, and then it will increment the count variable. You can also write count equals count plus 1, and then write our if statement, if count equals length of new tuple, then it should break out of the while loop. So let's try the algorithm and by ourselves and see if everything is right. So it starts from 0 and gets into the while loop, and then it starts from the new tuple, the item 0, which is Brooklyn. It prints out that item and it will increment the count. The count will equal 1, and then because 1 is not equal to length of the new tuple, which is 5, it will not break the loop, and then it will restart the loop itself by itself and print a new tuple, the item number 2, which is New York, and then do the same count plus 1, and the count will become 2, and because the count will not equal to the length of the tuple, it will not break, and it will go just the same for other numbers until the count becomes 5, and when it becomes 5, it will equal to the length of the new tuple and it will break out of the loop. And if we have other codes after it, it will run those parts, otherwise it will end the code. So let's run this one, and also we have saved it here. Okay, so here, as you can see, we have 3 Brooklyns and 3 Chicagos. Okay, these are 3 ways to loop through a tuple. Notice that we had another way inside a list when we would loop through a list, and that was writing it this way. For example, if we had new list, we would have written print x for x in new list, but here we cannot write for example, with parentheses, right, print x for, and 4 should be outside of these parentheses, for x in new tuple. So let me comment this one. And this statement, however, is not representing that it's an error, but it will throw an error because this is not the way we work with the tuples. So if I want to test this and see that whether it prints out this, I can run it, and here, as you can see, we have one Brooklyn number 2 here, and we also have Brooklyn number 3. So we have only printed out the 3 methods, but the fourth method, which is this one, will not print out all of these items for us. So this one is not going to work here for the tuple. However, it would have worked for the list if we had written that. So that's it for learning how to loop through a tuple.